8 things that made Viking longships remarkable. 1. They were double-ended. Viking longships had a symmetrical bow and stern. This allowed them to reverse without having to turn around. It was particularly handy in icy waters. A shallow draft allowed the longships to navigate shallow waters. They were also used for beach landings. Longships had a top speed of 17 knots, or almost 20 miles per hour. 2. They had distinctive figureheads. Viking longships were famously adorned with dragon heads. These held significant value in Viking culture. The dragon heads were believed to have protective powers. They guarded the crew against sea monsters. The dragon heads were also useful for intimidating enemies. In friendly waters, the Vikings would often remove the dragon head. This was done to avoid scaring away protective spirits. 3. Longships had names from Norse mythology. The tradition of naming ships was also symbolic. It was a way to seek favor from the gods. Longships had names like Mjolnir, Odin's Fury, or Freya's Blessing, but they could also have more warlike names. Dragon's Breath, Sea Serpent's Bite, Fenrir's Howl. These names were intended to scare enemies. 4. Longships were multi-purpose vessels. Of course, they were primarily used for raiding. The ship's speed and agility were perfect for swift coastal attacks, but the ships were also used for trade. They were well suited for transporting goods across long distances. The Vikings traded in timber, furs, precious metals, and horses. Longships could sail up rivers to inland trade centers. Viking longships were also employed for exploration. They could cover vast distances and weather storms. Leif Erikson's famous voyage was made using longships. 5. The rowers sat on wooden chests. This seating arrangement was for efficiency. The so-called sea chests were placed along the sides. They were lined up with the oar holes. Inside the chests were the crew's belongings and supplies. These heavy chests also added structural support to the ship's hull. They made it easier to switch between rowing and sailing. The crew would stow their oars and sit down while the ship was under sail. 6. Longships were built with very simple tools. The Vikings didn't have sophisticated tools. They used axes to fell trees and shape timber. The wooden planks would be smoothed with adzes. Augers were used for drilling holes. The planks were attached with iron rivets. Additionally, the Vikings used measuring tools. Divider compasses ensured the symmetry of the ship's design. 7. Shipbuilding was a specialized skill. In Viking society, skilled shipwrights were highly respected. These craftsmen were integral to Viking life. They designed, constructed, and repaired longships. The art of shipbuilding was passed between generations. Viking shipwrights also constructed other vessels. Apart from longships, Vikings used cargo ships and fishing boats. 8. Longships were used for burials at sea. Being buried aboard a ship was the greatest honor for a Viking. It was only accorded to chiefs and war leaders. The longship was believed to sail them to the afterlife. The vessel was filled with richly ornamented grave goods. Oxen or horses were often buried within the ship.